While 66% of people are unfulfilled in their jobs, half are women that cite working in a negative environment. My name is Holly Woods Gray, and I'm the CEO of Women of Wealth and a managing vice president with Appreciation Financial. And I'm here to tell you, there's a way out. In 2020, my team was paid over $2.6 million in commission, an increase of $300,000 from the prior year. 16 people on my team earn $100,000 or more each year. I want you to be the next person I get to celebrate with. Let's chat. Click the link below, send me a message, and let's find out if Appreciation Financial is a fit for you. There's room at the top. I'll meet you there.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our April spring cleaning edition of the WOW Summit. I'm so excited today to introduce you to my guest. She is a productivity coach, and she helps you not only spring clean your business, but to get into massive production and to create the results that you're looking for. I'm going to let Julie introduce herself, but I do know that she has such a superpower of helping people think outside of the box and find new ways to create exciting shifts in your business and exponential growth, as I mentioned. So Julie, take it away. Welcome.
Hi, Holly. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Holly did a great job of giving you a nutshell of what I do. So really my background was in teaching, and I taught high school English for 17 years. And through that time teaching, and then when I launched my first business, after I had my son and left teaching, I really found that what I love is to live my life and have work, right? And so I found that a lot of women, especially, are working so many hours and doing so many things that they are forsaking their own health, their own desires and habits or hobbies and things that they love, and also time with their family and friends. And so what I tend to do somewhat naturally, a lot of women don't, where I set up boundaries and I set up time to do the things that I love to do and be with the people who I love. And so 8 years ago, I really jumped into where I saw a hole in women's productivity and the way that they were running till they couldn't run anymore, and created this business and never looked back. And what I love about what I do too is that I wasn't just a teacher. Like, I am a teacher in my heart and soul. It's something that I think I was born to do. And so through this business, I found a way to continue teaching without the politics or the parents or any of that kind of stuff.
The parents. Oh my gosh. I was talking to, so my son plays football. He's 9 and he plays football. And on Saturday, he had a game and the ref threw a flag or something like that. And this parent on the other sideline started freaking out. And he came back and he just like said under his breath, "Parents." I'm like, I know, that's the whole reason I got out of coaching volleyball, because the parents, they just are like taking over. And I am a parent.
Yeah,
so
me too.
that he said that to me, because he's like, parents. And I'm like, I know, they're terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's just trying to ref a game and get some service credits probably, right? Or he's trying to make a couple bucks on the weekends. So yeah. Anyway, I love that. I love that now you're able to find your own classroom and thrive with helping women. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about the spring cleaning and what are some of the cobwebs that you recommend we regularly clear out in order to create room for growth. I don't talk about wealth today, but
So I really think there's one major thing. I believe that your business, I think if you all looked at your businesses, you would see that there are seasons in your business, just like there's seasons in the world. And so as we have summer, spring, fall, winter, that was all out of order, but whatever.
Not where I am. It was like 82 yesterday, and today it was 49 this morning.
Where we are right now in Colorado, we call it the spring of deception, where it's like 75 one day and then 39 the next. So, but anyway, I really believe that what we have to do in our businesses is do a calendar cleanup. If we're going to talk like spring cleaning, we need to do a calendar cleanup every season in our business. For me, this ends up being about 3 times a year. I don't have necessarily 4 seasons, but there's 3 times a year where I have to really like reset my calendar. Because what happens is, number one, what I'm doing for my clients and or events or whatever it may be shifts. What I'm doing in my life shifts. So in the winter, I'm skiing and I'm doing a bit of traveling. And in the summer, I play golf and I play tennis. And I have a lot of life and I hike. I do all kinds of things in the summer. And so my schedules in the winter and in the summer look totally different. And then I have amp up time, right, in the fall where I'm amping up to my event that I do in November. And so what I do is, I think I have one here. Actually, I thought I did. I have a blank calendar that is like month X. It's like any given month. And so what I do is I start with that calendar and this totally blank slate, which if you guys know, I don't know if any of you love it when you open a new calendar or a new notebook or whatever, and there's nothing in there. It's like one of my favorite things. And so I have this blank calendar that I print out, and I'm like, all right, so I know I have these networking things on these days every month. So I'm just going to fill those things in that I know happen. I know that right now, I just did it a couple of weeks ago. I know that I have golf every Tuesday morning. I know that I have tennis every Friday morning and every Wednesday morning. So I'm going to work those afternoons. I know I'm going to work most of the day on Monday. And so I know what my schedule is. So I put those things in, and then I figure out when is it that I'm running my programming. So I'm a coach. So I have programs that I run. And so I know I'll probably run those on Mondays or Thursdays. And then I also coach one-on-one some people. And so I have people do strategy sessions, and I'm a premier success coach with eWomen Network. And so when do I have those spots available in my calendar? And then from there, I kind of fill things in. So it's that reset, because what happens is our calendars start to just like fill up, and our life rhythm changes with this, whatever season it is in our lives and in our businesses. And we have to reset the calendar. Otherwise, everything starts crowding in, and we start fitting things in here and there. And then we feel like our hair is on fire. And so it's this overview of this blank month X in our calendar. It gives you that 30,000 foot view to go, okay, this is what ideally I would like it to look like. And how do I get that as integrated as possible? And so really, Holly, that is the number one thing I would say that I do to dust everything off and reset.
So I hope people heard that, because what you did was you didn't start with putting your business stuff in your calendar. You started with your hobbies, your family, your time that is filling your tanks up, right? I think one of the misconceptions about business owners is that we think we have to keep our schedule full of clients and we can't tell a client no. And my experience in the 11 years I've been with Appreciation Financial is I just had a client who she's retired, and I have several different accounts with her. And she's like, I need to meet with you. And she's like, I want to meet tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, I'm on spring break this week. I have a few things that I'm doing that are business wise, but my kid's on spring break. So I'm on spring break. So these are the days I'm available. You pick which day works for you. And then these are the times on those days that I'm available. And to tell you what, once I started getting that perspective, I was so much happier with what I was doing, because then I run my life instead of my clients running my life. I do have new agents, especially women who have a hard time telling people no, I'm busy at that time. They think that if you have to work them around your schedule, that you're going to lose them. Well, you know what? Those are the clients you don't want anyway.
Right. Because they're
the ones that are going to call you at 5:00 in the morning and want you to answer the phone. And the answer is no.
Exactly. The more that, and you don't even have to say I'm busy. You can just say I'm not available. Who can argue with that? Who can argue that you're not available? Right. And you're exactly right. If we start letting people in they will keep coming in and running us instead of us running our business. And when we get, businesses, brick and mortars have hours. They're open 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 9 to 7 or whatever it is. Nobody's going, hey, could you meet me at your store at 7:30?
Right.
So the more that we can set those boundaries, people will comply, and they might say, hey, none of these times on your calendar work. Is it possible? And then that's another conversation we can have, because I do work with people on that. But it's like,
Right.
we have to put boundaries up there, or people won't. They'll take advantage without meaning to take advantage, but they take advantage because we're letting them. And the other thing is that it is so important, this reset of you brought up something that I just want to say, because it's all about business growth, right? And so if we're to that point in our calendar where we're starting to fit and squeeze things in, we have told the universe that we don't have time for another client. Like, I barely have time to do what I'm doing. How would I handle another client? Where would I put them? And so the universe is like, okay, not going to send any more your way. So if we can really make that space and reset that calendar, then and clean up that calendar, then guess what we've done is we've created space for growth, and we don't feel like one more client is gonna, we'll handle it, but it's gonna put me over the edge, or all these things are gonna fall by the wayside because I took on another client. Instead, we are figuring out, okay, I do have space. This is where I have space. This is how I have space. Now we have that flow, and we have the ability for people to come to us and not feel like a deer in the headlights. Oh God, I really want this client, but I don't have time. And so we're sending mixed signals when that happens.
Yeah, I like that. Congruency is very important in business. So, speaking of congruency, how can we check in with our existing clients' satisfaction in order to increase future experience, increase the enjoyment of future experience?
So this is something that I do. This is another kind of check-in that I do. So my flagship program is 6 months long. So every 2 months, I actually have them journal. We meet in a group virtually. I have them journal, like, how do you see yourself as different than when you started, or when our last check-in point is? And I have them go back, look at their last check-in point, and then so they can really see how things are different, how they feel different, how they're operating differently, and just how they are, what they've implemented that they weren't implementing before, that's allowing them to grow. So I'm not asking at that point for testimonials. Those things can turn into testimonials because it's a reminder of where they've been and where they were and where they are, and their journey with me. And it's a way for them to check in without me going like, so how's it going? Are you happy? Is this working for you? Instead, they're really in it and looking at how things are so different, and how many more clients they have, and what are their numbers, what growth have they had because of what they're putting into place. And it's a great check-in, throughout our time together, for them to really see what shifts are truly being made that are making a difference for them.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I love that. What are you doing that's different? How do you see yourself as different? And I ask my clients that too. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's different now? Whenever I do an annual review or something like that, if they're a younger client, what happened? Maybe they got married, maybe they had a kid, especially like, I didn't see a lot of my clients. They didn't want to do annual reviews during the pandemic. So now that we're getting back in person, they want to get together. And I think that's so incredible to start with, like, where are the differences, right? Because where the differences are, that's number one, growth in your business. And number one for us in our business, that's opportunity. Because, if they got married, right, then there's another insurable need. If they had a kid, there's another insurable need. So asking those questions are great to really make sure that people, and then also people see the growth that they've had since the last time you met with them. I love that. I love that check-in. So speaking of checking in, let's talk a little bit about collaboration and what partners can you collaborate to improve your business, and how do you really seek them out? First of all, how do you identify who are good power partners or partners?
Yeah. So good. The people I'm always looking for that are good collaborators for me, and I vet them pretty heavily, are people. So when people work with me, Holly, they get to the point of where they're really starting to understand what are the things that only they can do, and
Yeah.
what are the things that need to get off their plate. And so what I help them do is start to actually like delegate, and they start to have the feeling that they have financial freedom to be able to delegate, and actually pay someone to do that part. So it is it is something that I'm looking for. Like, I'm always looking for bookkeepers, social media experts, virtual assistants. I'm looking at my list so I don't forget anything. Website maintenance, people who are marketing experts. Those are the types of people I've built my team with. And I recommend my team to people sometimes, but sometimes they're not the exact person. So I've got a list of online business managers, of virtual assistants, of bookkeepers, of firms that have all the things, and so that they can do their own vetting. But I've done like the precursor, so now I've got this pool of 5 people for you to interview instead of 100 people. So that's one thing. As far as the people that I collaborate with, a lot of times are the people that that my people would need to delegate to get things off their plate, since their businesses are growing. The other thing that I look for, and those people also are really good referral partners for me, because they're working with clients who are sometimes a hot mess, to be honest with you. And they're like, this gal is like, you need to talk to Julie Miller Davis, because she is all about your front end habits and patterns, so that we can actually have really good tools and systems and communication in place in order for me to do a better job for you. So a lot of times that can happen as well. And so power partners for me are, I have another coach that I work with, like she's a mindset coach and I'm this productivity. So people come to us sometimes in reverse, whichever order, but we are both really good for each other because our clients need both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few things. And then, I think that it's just really, a lot of people can refer to me because I am unique in a space. I'm not a blanket business coach. I am really about your front end habits and patterns. How are you operating? What are your habits around time? How are you or not operating proactively in your business? And so we change um, how you are engaging in your business in your life on a daily basis, so that you can get more out of it. I'm not back end systems. Like, there's certain things I can give you recommendations, but I am not the expert in any way, shape, or form. So that kind of thing is where I work with people. And so a lot of it is when people have worked with me, they know who to send my way because of keywords that people are saying.
Yeah. So we had a couple questions, and you just mentioned one, so maybe we can just dive into this a little bit together. But how long did it take you to figure out a system or process for, like, how long does it take for you to figure that out when you're working with someone? Like, oh, okay, this is their system. That, like, just take the calendar, for example. It's a great tool for system, right? So when you look at somebody, when you first open up to the conversation around calendar, how can you figure out that that's part of their problem?
Well, a lot of times it's asking yourself, if you're going to try to self-diagnose here, the question is, it's really around, what does my day look like generally? Do I have a plan, and does that plan go out the window, or do I just hit the ground running with no plan? What kinds of things am I doing all day? And really, Sandra Yancey eWomen Network talks about this a lot also, but it's like, you've got to keep a log for a couple of days of everything that you're doing. Even if it's things like, how we were just talking about this yesterday in one of my classes, that if we're keeping a food journal, we got to keep all the things that we put in our mouth, even if we're like, well, I don't usually do this.
It's only 3 M&Ms.
I don't usually have a bag of M&Ms at 2 p.m. So I'm not going to write it down. Like, no. You're like, I don't usually,
Have another cup of
I
coffee.
don't usually surf Facebook for an hour at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm not going to write it down. Well, no, we got to be honest about what we're doing, because you can't dig in and change anything until you become totally aware of what your habits are around time. And so for me to figure out a process, if someone comes to me and they're talking to me, the first thing I ask them is to walk me through a day, because then I have a picture of what they're doing. And I also ask them, where is it that you feel like you're having the biggest issues? Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. They think they have a time management problem, which I don't use that terminology. It's a calendar and a task management problem, and a goal management problem, more than time management. But they think they have that, but really it comes down to what their habits are, because they're just running on autopilot, right? A lot of times. So some people can't even tell me their day. They don't know. And some people have a very structured day, but they're not focusing on anything that is going to drive them forward.
Right.
And so I have tools and systems, but nothing is cookie cutter that I do, because everybody's different. But my tools are the same. It just depends on where we come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's the same actually for your business. When you talk to people, some people have some ducks in a row, some people have nothing.
Right.
And
Some are all over the place. Some don't even know where to start. So,
Mhm.
that is one of the nice things about the systems that we do have in place. We have, our fact finder that really identifies where the problems are. And, we have the not so fun conversations around life and death and beneficiaries and who's going to take care of your kids and all that kind of stuff. But those are important to have. And when you don't have them, I was sharing with some friends at church not too long ago that if you have 18-year-old kids and you don't have a health and they're off to college and you don't have a healthcare directive in place and something happens to them, depending on the hospital, you might not be able to get the information.
You have no power to get information. Yep.
Yeah. And so, those are just like little tips that I give people here and there. Like, I don't even do that. I don't make any money off of doing that. So I just would love to educate people on these are the things that you need to have in a row. And then, one of the other questions that came across on Facebook or LinkedIn was, how do you know when it's time to switch it up?
That's a good question. And it really leads in from the last question. What will happen is, and it happens to me. I'm the expert in the room, right? And it happens to me, which is why I have this blank calendar exercise that I do to clean up my calendar. When you need to switch things up, hopefully you can start being proactive about it. But there's two exercises you can do. Well, number one, the reactive way to go about it is when you start feeling like your hair is on fire, is time to back it up and look at your calendar.
Right.
That's reactive, right? Is like, holy cow, what's happening? I don't know if I'm coming or going. I don't know what I did all week. I'm out of control. Sit down, take a half an hour and do that calendar exercise that I talked about at the beginning of the interview. The other thing that you can do is and we do this in one of my courses that I teach, is we actually do an assessment of the ebbs and flows in our businesses. We have natural ebbs and flows, and it can be in a week, it could be in a month, it could be in the year, and it could be all three. But what are the natural ebbs and flows? Where do things slow down naturally in the year? Where do things amp up in the year? And where we need to do is adjust our calendars accordingly. Like in the summertime, I can work on a lot of content and different things. I'm busy playing a lot. I'm running my programming and I'm playing, but I have time to work on my business then and like strategize. When I'm in it, like January, February, March, it is bananas because I'm amping up all kinds of programming. That is not the time for me to be engaged in business development. Like, no way. But I know these, and I've also created the ebbs and flows in my business. Other businesses like real estate, maybe in Holly, what you do, and insurance agents, like there are very market driven and time of the year driven ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And for me, I have been able, because of the nature of my business, I've been able to dictate my ebbs and flows a little bit more.
Wouldn't you say though, like a new entrepreneur though, coming in, whether they come into insurance or into real estate or into whatever it is that they come into, they're not going to know that coming in.
Yes,
Right.
that's right.
So like somebody
Mhm.
starts my business in April. Now April's a great time to start our business because we have all these different channels that we work with. But let's say 3 years ago when we were only working in the school district market, it is a little bit of a challenge to come
Yes.
into a school district market product in April and not know that you're going to need 5 to 6 months to really get that pipe fly. I mean, some of my busiest months have been in the summer, but that
Mhm.
wasn't my first year. My first year was learning and growing and identifying which schools had summer school, like all these things that I needed to learn about the business. I believe it takes about a good 18 months to 2 years as a new entrepreneur, especially if you're going into a new field, in order for you to really, in the beginning, you're drinking from a fire hose. Like in our business, you have to get licensed, you have to make sure you have all the compliance down and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, there's a lot to learn and people expect immediate results, right?
They do. Yeah.
And immediate results don't happen when you're an entrepreneur. I mean, it might, you could get lucky, if you work hard.
And I don't know that an immediate results really happen for anyone. We all have to, nobody's an overnight success. Nobody is.
Right.
We just don't see the hard work that went in. People are like, man, you're so lucky. Your business went so, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea the patience and the dedication and the pushes, the hustle that has happened in order to get where I am, where now I have this awesome balance. But I think you're right. I think it's a 12 to 18 months because you have to discover those ebbs and flows. But if you're listening to this conversation and you're fresh in, I think you have now an edge up because you can start to become aware as it's unfolding. And I think, Holly, the other thing that we have to think about in that first year to 18 months of business is it is a hustle. It is. You're hustling in ways that you will not ever hustle for that long again. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But it's like you've got to really start and continue to be aware of taking care of yourself so that you can grow in. And something Holly said earlier is so true. People think if they say no, if they set a boundary, if they take a week off for themselves or a weekend for themselves, that somehow they're going to miss all these opportunities. And the truth is, we're so much fresher and so much more able to understand the opportunities and things coming our way if we have taken care of ourselves, that you will grow at a much higher level if you're taking care of yourself than if you are just like nose to the grindstone for 24/7.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, now the position that I'm in at Appreciation Financial, a lot of people weren't here when I was commuting. I had a toddler at home and I wasn't spending the night at home 3 nights a week. And people are like, are you crazy? And I'm like, I'm doing this for a reason. Now I miss very few things. Now I'm able to make my schedule in a way where I am able to go to football practice or do whatever it is that he wants to do. Like we're going to do a staycation the last couple of days of spring break. We're able to do that now. Not only do we have the financial liberty to do that, but I also have the time to say, okay, I have one appointment on Thursday and then after that, I'm all yours, So those are things that you have to be mindful of to set up though. All right. So there was one more question. What's the most common challenge you've seen from your clients in productivity and business management?
Ooh, it's a good question. I would say it's twofold. Number one is where they are trying to balance all the plates and doing all the things with no rhyme or reason. It's like willy-nilly, just trying to check as many things off as I can off this list that makes no sense. And so their calendar and their task list are controlling them rather than they being in control and really keeping the bigger picture in mind. So that's one of the very most common things that people come to me for, because they're out of control. The second thing is this other side of my business, which is around getting big things launched. So they're either feeling like something's got to give, or they're feeling like I know something has to give so that I can build the thing that I want to build, and I don't know where to start, or I don't have time to get this thing implemented in order to grow. And so they both come down to making space. So I would say that's the number one challenge is how do I make space in order to get all the things done or to get the big thing that I know would launch, that would move the needle super fast. I just need to figure out how to get that done. So they're both related, but they're very different approach that I would take with a client. But I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's great. And the other thing that I think new entrepreneurs especially don't realize is the amount of reinvestment into your business. Sometimes it's time, but a lot of times it is financial investment. You know, like sometimes I tell some of the newer agents on my team, like how much I've spent for coaching, or I'm in this program, this 9-month program or whatever, and how much it costs. And like, I could never afford to do that. And my response to that is you cannot afford not to do that. Because honestly, like right now, speaking of hair on fire, we have a whole new business model that we put in place in February. And since February, I have 110 new consultants who've come into my business, right?
Wow.
And so if I didn't invest in all of that professional and personal growth, I could be like totally freaking out, hair on fire moments. But what I'm able to do is take a step back, call one of my mentors, go through some processes, get with someone like Julie, who has all these resources for me. And, you know, how do I now become this person? You know, I already knew how to manage 100 agents. How do I manage 200, 300, 500 agents? And how do I build leaders on my team to be able to like, how do I duplicate myself? That's what it's all about.
That is what it's about. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
How do I duplicate myself? And so those are some of the conversations that I'm having now. And if I wasn't willing to invest in my business, in myself, in my team, you know, one of the questions that we were going to talk about, but I think this is even more important. We were going to talk about how to make it habits to check in with your team and why is it important. But let's talk about why it's important to invest in your business in that type of growth.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because if we go back to the first question, my first part was calendar cleanup. My second one was coaching.
Right.
So to make sure that we have space for growth, that I have space for growth in my business, I, from day one, have always had a coach, always. And the first coach that I hired, I knew I needed her. And I'm like, well, what does it look like to work with her? I'm on her website and I'm like, please don't say $10,000 program. Please don't say the $10,000 program, because I'm like just starting. And she told me the $3,500 program. I probably got the $10,000 program, but I have invested more in coaching than I ever did in higher education of any kind. And my business grows every single year. And I've never not recouped the coaching dollars in some way, whether it's time or money. And so to invest in yourself, in your personal development or professional development in some way, find the hole. I've known right now I have a marketing coach because I know there's a hole in that marketing piece. I hired a sales coach and had her for a couple of years because I knew that was a hole in my knowledge that I needed in order to grow my business. I hired a business strategist for a while because I didn't know about business. I didn't know about business. I'm a teacher. I lived in a small box, a very small world. And so I had to figure this out. It doesn't have to be any coach. And it's really that self-assessment. And there's a lot of people investing in mindset coaches. There's a lot of people investing in life coaches. And if you find the right person who is helping you fulfill that whole, whatever the hole is, wherever you feel like you're not fulfilling what you need to in your business or in your personal life, I'm right with Holly. You heard me say it right with her. You can't afford not to, and you're thinking, I'll wait till next year. If you wait till next year, I'm just going to tell you, would you rather you're going to be right where you are next year? Like, is that what you want? Or do you want someone walking with you along the way to help you grow and manage the growth and be in a whole different place than you are right now?
Yeah.
Just because you're afraid of the financial and afraid of what you might be afraid of the growth. I don't know, but yeah.
That's funny. Have you ever invested in a coach and did you benefit from it? That's so funny. Yes. So, I mean, for me, so I went to the Grant Cardone 10X conference
Oh,
like the week before COVID started. Like COVID was already being talked about there. It was here in Vegas, and I went to it. And he put a challenge out. He's like, write down how much you've spent in personal development and professional growth up to this point. And my number was pretty high. I used to work for a personal and professional leadership training company a number of years ago. My number was over $50,000. And he said, whatever you spent up to this point, spend it in the next year and see what happens to your business. I took that challenge and I spent it. I spent it on writing a book. In my book, I had a publisher. I had like a whole coaching program that was over, quite a bit of money. It was about $40,000 all said and done. So that was a ton of coaching. In addition to that, hired an editor and a writing coach and a speaking coach and all that kind of stuff. And what it has done to my business to get me ready for where I am right now is incredible. So if that scared, like for me, every time I get a coach, it's like I have to have this little pit in my stomach feeling when I'm spending the money on it. I don't know why, but it just feels like if I don't have that, I don't typically invest what I need to invest into the program.
Yeah.
So, Julie, you and I have talked about where I'm at, what you do, and all that kind of stuff. And I could not recommend Julie any hire to anybody out there that really needs somebody to help them with their productivity and how to focus on getting the job done. So I'm going to give you a minute to talk a little bit about some of the programs and ways that my community could connect with you. And then also at the end, I think we have a little bit more, but is there another question that I should have asked you that I didn't? Or do you want to jump into some of the ways people can connect with you?
I think we've really covered a lot of the questions that people asked. I think were really, really good. I think we've covered the gamut. There are some other things that I do around value and vision alignment, which help us really take advantage of opportunities or not, based on what's happening, and help us be really clear on decisions that we're making in our business, which is also related to productivity, right? But I really think, Holly, that we have done a great job here. What we didn't talk about was the team management kind of thing, which we can come back to if we want to.
Sure.
Yeah. So if we want to talk about what I offer, there are so many opportunities to engage with me. I have free offerings every single month. If you just want to try me on with no risk, but like 30 minutes of your time, I run a Q&A on the last Monday, or the fourth Monday, not the last Monday, the fourth Monday of every month, late morning in Mountain Time. But so I have that going on. I always am offering webinars and different ways to engage with me, as well as following me on social media. I've got a lot of videos on YouTube and that kind of thing. But I also have these 6-week courses that I offer on prioritizing and on proactively planning and problem solving for your business. There's 2 6-week courses, and I have my long program, which is very much by invite only, but you can always click strategy session with me and we can dig in to see where your productivity blocks are, and if and how I can help you like get where you want to go. Like we dig into what if those were gone, what would happen, what's possible, and then we see if I'm a good fit for you. But there are all kinds of ways to engage with me and try me on before you have to engage with me on like a scary phone call.
It's actually not scary. I look at that like, what an opportunity, right? Even if Julie isn't the right fit for you, to get 30 minutes of her time and just to dive into some of the things that you may need help with. Hey, she could probably refer you to the right person.
Absolutely.
She has a huge network of other coaches that she works with or she's in contact with, and she can refer you to the right person if she's not the fit for you. So that's the other great thing I love about working with you, Julie, and other coaches that I've met through eWomen Network is that you guys are so open to like making sure and finding the right fit. And if it's not the right fit, to referring out to who is the right fit. I think that's really beneficial and great.
I think most of us are very clear about who if you're ready for us or not, and who we can send you to maybe have a call with or check out, because you're not ready for us, we're not ready for you, or, you know, whatever the thing may be. And you can go to my website, which I think is being posted, and it says book a call in the upper right hand corner. You can do that, and there's all kinds of resources on my website for you also, to get going in your productivity. And like Holly said, I'm happy to have 30 minutes, give you 30 minutes of my time to just dig in and get really clear on what's going on in your business.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie. We'll leave that question for next time. It'll be a little teaser for people. So the next time I have Julie on, we'll talk more about team building and whatnot. I really want to thank you for taking your time today and connecting with me and your audience. I just absolutely adore everything that you are about. You guys have to go check out the pictures on her website about all the different sports that she's into and read her bio. It's very cool. So if you're in tennis or golf or outdoor hiking, and it looks like it's a little bit of skiing and all the winter sports too of Colorado, then that's another way to connect with Julie as well. So thank you so much for being on the Women of Wealth Summit. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you so much, Holly. Take care, everybody.